Hello, hello.
Welcome all.
To a Financial Friday on this beautiful Friday day. Hopefully it's beautiful for you guys wherever you're at. We have Mark Katona. And I'm Fredrick Hicks. And we'd like to welcome you to our show today. And we're going to be talking about some interesting topics that I think many of you are going to be able to wrap your heads around. We're going to be talking about money, right, Mark?
Oh,
money. But more specifically, we're going to be talking about how to use money more efficiently. Now, all of us know that we should be using our monies in the most efficient manner possible. So what we're going to really talk about is you and how, to use it more efficiently. What do you think, Mark? That's a good idea?
I think it's a great idea, Fred. I mean, it amazes me that when you and I talk to people on a daily basis, how much they really don't know about money, okay? Yet we walk out of the house with hopefully a couple dollars in our pockets, and we come home in the evening and hopefully we still have a couple dollars. But it amazes me how every single one of us have a different belief system in our money. And I think it's wonderful that it's a major topic that we really need to emphasize and talk about today. So I'm excited to get started with you.
Yeah, let's get started. Let's talk about, or maybe Mark, you can elaborate a little bit more about what is financial literacy and what is the true definition of using your money in the most efficient manner in your mind, in your philosophy?
In my philosophy, well, 31 years being in the financial world, okay, growing up with parents who, I really didn't know their system. They really didn't explain their system. My father was a police officer. Then he was a tin man. He sold aluminum siding door to door. My mother was a director of a school system. And I think they had their own different philosophies on money, but on any different time there was a sore subject matter growing up, it was always about money. Okay. They came from different beliefs and different backgrounds. So, and in many marriages, there's that struggle of, I might know a little bit more than you. I'm the one that should be using a checkbook, well, okay, you use the checkbook, but then after things are bouncing, oh no, now I'm going to use the checkbook. Or it's never that happy medium of we do the things together. We share the same bills together, okay? And that's a big issue in marriages. I mean, the biggest thing out there today, 65% of marriages fail because of money.
Yeah. And in COVID-19, it's probably 99.1 or 99.99% just because now you're in close quarters with each other. And now finance becomes a really big talking point because you're stuck at home. So very good point, Mark. So efficiency in your philosophy or the way you think, tell me what that looks like.
Well, number one, I'm just going to play off where I was starting there was it's being on the same common ground with it. Number one, if you're married or if you're single, okay, because there's plenty of single people out there. It's understanding it. We can go to the library, or we can just go online and get a book out there. We can go on the internet. We can go to Italy and go. Well, maybe not right now, but eventually go back to Italy. Okay. And we can actually see and feel the cultures of that world. Okay.
Yeah.
But if we're not actually thinking about it, we're putting it on the side. Okay. And with me, financial literacy is a very sore subject. I mean, and it's something that all of us, I know I'm saying all of us, I'm speaking for you and I, because we share a lot of the same parallels.
Yeah.
It's that we want to try to resolve it in the world. I mean, there's a huge gap between poverty and wealth. Okay. And what's in between here is just just going more this way than going this way. And I know that's our objective, why we're creating the show, so we can get us this way, okay? This way on an even till. So everybody has a chance out there to, maybe they might have their own different belief systems, but reality is wherever they live in, wherever their culture is, wherever their country, however their money works in the country, they all need to know how to survive with the skill sets of what that country dictates them allowable to. You know, in this country, rules are changing all the time. And on a daily basis. I mean, we had with COVID, you know, we had the Secure Act before COVID. We had the CARE Act. We have all these different acts. You know, countries huge in debt, further in debt. I mean, if you go into each states of our country, I don't know how many are positive. So many are negative in debt as well. You know, so there are things that we can do. All these brick and mortars that are out there that have closed up, you know, because they really didn't figure it out beforehand. You know, hey, guess what? We got e-commerce out there, okay? And what are we doing differently? Or maybe we can do as a partnership with e-commerce. They haven't even thought about that, but that's why there's more and more of those closing up. So what we can do is, number one, work with people who want to help you and educate you, okay? I like working with human beings. I like coaching. I know you like doing that as well, okay? Yeah, and it's really important that you're comfortable with the people that are teaching you. Because think about school, okay? You didn't listen to your parents at home, okay, when they were trying to teach you certain things. But you listen to a stranger. You listen to that teacher in school, and sometimes those teachers were really good teachers, okay? And we didn't realize that they were really good teachers until our brains matured enough to say, hey, you know what? They're looking out. They're looking out for my best interest as well. And it really depends on your maturity, okay? And then that belief system of getting into school and saying, hey, you know what? My parents gave me some rules that I really didn't want to follow, but now my brain's a little bit more mature and I need to like start looking around and getting comfortable with things. And maybe I'll figure myself out and I'll have some assistance. And maybe I'll get into some niche things that I like, whether it's certain clubs and sports, activities, you know, good friends, good mentors, good coaches, people that can make a difference and mold our lives, okay? And be who we are today. Be who we want to be. And if we're not that person, now you still can be something else that you can be trained to do. And that's the whole key. The key is to get your mindset. And you just pointed a little while ago. That's exactly right. Your mindset into a position that, because you know, life does not end until we are like this, okay? Right. But right now, it's like, I want to learn. I need to learn. You know, Fred, you and I deal with people every single day, okay, that, you know, we have to break down the barriers because they're so fearful of people scams, people trying to take advantage of them. They've been taken advantage of all over. So they don't know who to trust, what to trust. So people like yourself and myself, and there's some really good people that we are going to get on this show, okay, and help the world, okay, because they're great speakers. They're people who know how to coach. They can develop myself, yourself, people like us, people who have open minds.
And we can learn.
And we can
learn from them.
We learn every day from it.
Because there's no financial advisor that has all the answers. There's no silver bullet, is it, Mark? You know, it requires, you know, just like they say, sometimes it might take a village to really be able to provide the type of education that's needed. There's no one person that can do everything, right?
Totally
so
true.
You want to get it, you know, you want to get information from a village kind of mentality, and not just from what you read on the internet, or not because there might be someone that manages your money but they're not actually acting in a fiduciary capacity. So with that being said, guys, let's take a look at how money is perceived conceptually by most. Okay, let's take a look at that. Let's share the screen. So in most cases, we all have income coming into our lives. And I'm sure everyone would agree. And if we have that level of income that we're hoping for, it comes in waves. As you grow and mature and as your income rises, so does your lifetime capital potential. So you have to ask yourself through this lifetime, if we start here and we travel through our lifetime capital potential and land right here, I'm going to stop right there for a minute because I want everyone that's listening to ask yourself one key question. How much money has actually flown or gone through your lifetime in your financial lifetime? How much of it has traveled through this large tank here? Well, typically, I'm sure Mark would agree that if you're about 40 years of age, it could be as much as what? What do you think, Mark? About maybe 2 million?
Easy.
Easy. Okay, $2 million. So when you're thinking about that, I want you to think about how much of that money do you still have access to? Okay. Because here in the United States, we have to pay a thing called what? Taxes. Right, Mark?
Absolutely.
And are taxes going up or down, do you think, Mark? What's your opinion of that?
Way up there.
It's going to go way up. And a lot of people are not saving any money. So it's going out towards lifestyle and it is gone forever. Okay. And we have to go earn new dollars in order to maintain a lifestyle. But the habits are still bad, aren't it? Isn't it, Mark? It's still bad because without a saving strategy and some of that income being diverted to an investment aspect, could be a 401k or 403b, they really don't have any emergency funds to go to, or they're not even planning for the inevitability of what? Retirement. So I can speak for Mark because Mark and I think alike. We're both master mentors and we teach for a living. We're educators. The goal is to remove your dependency of just constantly earning income. And tell me if I'm wrong, Mark. And let's start saving more money to some degree. But we need to decide where best it is to save that money, right? So most of us, and Mark, tell me if I'm wrong, have just saved in the investment tank, whether if that's a pre-tax plan, a qualified plan of any type, 403b, you name it. And that means that taxes at some point in the future are going to be due, but we're just delaying that tax calculation until later in life. So if we could get more people focused on saving, would that be a good thing, Mark?
I think it would be a wonderful thing. The issue is, I call it a paradigm shift, okay? It's the ability to, a picture paints 1,000 words, Fred.
Yes, it does.
And looking at this, people look at this conceptually, and it looks like many different things to them.
Yes,
but
it does.
When you started off putting money in that lifetime capital potential tank, you had that little side tank right there, that qualified plan contribution tank that's right there. Every job that shows up that has a deferred comp plan right away. Okay. And what are we doing? Our mentality, the water cooler conversations are get money in that tank, get money over there as soon as possible. Okay. No matter what, if there's a match or there's not a match, get money in that tank. And people to have no idea what the tax ramification is. Even when they're talking to their CPAs, okay, their CPAs are telling them, put more money away, get more money in your IRA. You haven't put enough away. Make sure you get money. No one's ever talking to them about the aftermath, okay? How that's going to work out for them in retirement. Taking the same dollars and putting them into a vehicle that's after taxed. Because we totally believe, well, we know that January 1, 2026, the sunset provision goes away. And in the sunset provision, taxes are supposed to revert back to 2017 tax rates or higher. So taxes are on sale right now. And there's many things.
We're leasing our taxes, right?
That makes sense.
So if we're leasing our taxes, we're going to own it in the future. Then what you're saying, to play off exactly what you said, we need to figure out how to have more tax advantage dollars. But typically, would you agree, Mark, when we meet most people, this is similar if they're saving, that is, because sometimes it's not even a savings feature, is it? It looks just like this. It's just all the money they bring in is being taxed, and then it goes out for current lifestyle and is gone forever. But those people who do believe in a savings structure and that do have a pre-tax plan, either whether it's a employer-sponsored plan or something else, okay, maybe their parents taught them how to do penny stocks, or they're day traders, or they're investing in municipal bonds or T-bills, something. They're investing somewhere, whether that's a savings account, doesn't matter. But what we're really talking about is which tank is going to give us the most advantage and leverage, which you agree would be the tank that has the fewest number of penalties associated with it. Would you agree with that, Mark?
I would totally agree with it. You know, the problem is education, okay? Being able to open up your ears, okay? Take the blinders off, okay, completely, because we all live like this, okay? Like we're going down around the racetrack, okay? And we don't want to look at anything else but what we've been,
tunnel vision.
A
new right. TV vision, right?
Yeah.
The new vision, right?
Yeah. So if we can get these down, okay, we can get these down, and we can get our belief systems into what the truth really is out there, okay, versus what we've been taught growing up, because it's the old rules don't work anymore. It's the new rules that are in effect, okay? That's going to help us or hurt us. It just depends on where we want to be now going forward. So
I like what you said there. Let me play off of that a little bit.
Okay.
So what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that we need to not only put money in the investment tank, which might be a pre-tax for in the future, we're postponing the inevitable, okay? But we also need to save monies that do not have any penalties associated with it so that we can gain access to those dollars when we need it. But would you agree, Mark, and I know for my clients, I see very little in this tank, just up to an emergency fund, and all of their dollars, because it's pre-tax and it makes it easy, they've learned to live on less because they're willing to put it here. But any after-tax dollars that they have in, they're not going to place it here because they don't feel like that's even growing, that it's not doing anything for them. So I would say, or dare to say, that if people are not saving more over here and everything is over here, that they're out of balance. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I'm looking right at that picture, and it's so completely out of balance. When you just have emergency fund money as your money, look at that tank. Look at the difference. And that's exactly what I see every single day.
So when they have an emergency, all they're simply doing is emptying their green tank all the time. So it's never anything really building up that's tax advantaged that you can see. They're just living kind of check to check, because to gain access to here, it's a penalty. So everyone, stays away from that one because they see it as something for the future. So would you agree that we need to start getting people into understanding the financial literacy is not choosing the tank that inevitably has its own set of rules, but a tank that you can control. But most people just, I lost them. You know why? Because there's nothing that this tank can do other than just store money. Is it possible, Mark, that this tank could actually earn interest? A greater amount of interest than the standard of living adjusted for inflation and still be tax free? Is it possible?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Eureka. Guys, it's the big picture you have to look at is retirement. What have you lost control of? Income. That's what you've lost control of. It's on its decline. So if we focus everything in this tank here, okay, and we don't know who the future president's going to be, we don't know what taxes are going to be in the future, okay, and we don't know how we're going to deduct and utilize monies more efficiently, we might need to save more money in a tank that says safe on it. Well, that's exactly what we're trying to teach you today. What we're trying to teach you is that one day, guys, you're going to be out, you're not going to stop working, and your lifetime capital potential tank is going to go away. And the only thing that's going to keep you from not having to return back to work is how well we fill up these two tanks. Okay. Now, Mark and I are experts in filling up both tanks, but we have a liking for one, don't we, Mark?
Absolutely.
And which one would you say that is?
The one to the right.
The right one, the pretty green one. I know yellow looks really attractive because most of us believe in return or rate of return, but we can't quite wrap our arms around compounding, even though both compound. It's just trying to decide which one compounds with the least amount of penalty, and the control is now in your hands. So what we want to do is make sure that you guys do have an investment tank that's earning the highest amount of interest it can possibly earn, which is compounding. But we also want to make sure that you guys are understanding that firing your partner, and that's not your spouse, that's IRS, is equally important, because it's not what you earn, it's what you can keep. I'll say it again. It's not what you earn, it's what you can keep. And if this tank has a partner that can change the rules at any given time, you can imagine what this red strip is. And if taxes are more to the left, you lose when you're taking withdrawals. If taxes are more to the right when you're taking withdrawals, you'll have a longer time with your money. But there's a thing at 72 years old. And what happens at 72, Mark?
We have to take a portion of that investment tank, Fred.
And if this investment tank is hit by volatility, as well as having to be in forced distributions called required minimum distributions, or RMDs, is it possible that we could outlive our money?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the biggest fear everybody has before they meet with us, Fred. That is the number one fear, outliving their money. Okay. And that's every single poll that I've taken with workshops and webinars and just conversations with people on a daily basis. Am I going to run out of money, first, and then have to worry about living in poverty or living off other family members? Okay. We don't have to. It's just a matter of I call it, and I said it, the paradigm shift, how our belief system needs to change. So it's certainly a problem. It's right in the forefront in our foreheads. It's right here in the front, just that people are just standing still because they don't know who to talk to. They're so discombobulated with, go look at different investments out there. Put your money in this. We can guarantee you this. We're talking about things that are like past history is not going to be guarantee you future performances. But reality is they're going off what how their parents invested. They're not going on what they should be doing now and going on into the future. And what happened in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s isn't holding true to what's happening here in the 2000s, okay? Because of regulations, because of just taxation, okay? Taxation is something that none of us, as you keep, and I keep talking about it, we never really think about it, okay? Majority of people in our world don't think about taxes and health, volatility until it's too late, okay?
Indeed.
And that's what we're trying to emphasize here today is just having the whole world figure out the things to do, easy things, not hard things that are going to be able to help you going forward. And the way we're trying to emphasize that is these pictures. Pictures mean so much, and I love the way how you're emphasizing that, Fred.
So let me ask you a question then, Mark. Would you say that it is an investment strategy, or is it more of a saving strategy? Which one do you think is probably the better recipe?
I'm into the saving strategy.
Okay. So we're partial to the saving strategy. So it's really a savings efficiency strategy because both tanks require you to willingly save the money. Just one tank has more rules than the other. So if that is the case, guys, one day when you go into retirement, okay, and if you've gotten these tanks full, okay, and you no longer have income coming in from a full-time job and that goes away, what replaces it here in the United States? Well, what replaces it is called Social Security, correct? Social Security. So I'm going to rebuild these tanks here. All right. And when I rebuilt these tanks, I'm going to add on a very small tube. Now, notice it's much smaller because your income as a result has decreased. Okay. And we now have a smaller tube. That means less income, and we can't have over-reliance on Social Security. And guys, we're going to teach a show on Social Security, right, Mark? And explain to you how Social Security really works and how you shouldn't have over-reliance upon it. But looking at this table here, just by looking at the size differences of the pipes, you pretty much have your answer that if you don't have these two tanks pretty full, you might be in trouble. You might have made a slight minor bad decision because it's bolted on to the tax filter, as you see here. And guys, Social Security in the United States is taxed at either 50 to 85%, 50 or 85. So you have to look at where you fall in at based on that tax algorithm. Right, Mark?
Absolutely. And it's kind of sickening out there because, when it was first created, they said that it would never be taxed. Okay. And it wasn't taxed for the longest time. Okay. Until the government figured out, hey, we have all this money. We can tap into it. And they've been tapping into it for a very long time. They've been changing the rules, as Fred said, 50 to 85%. Okay. So if that's a lot. Now that's not saying you're taxed at 50 or 85%. That means that 50% of your Social Security could be subject to ordinary income tax, or 85% of your Social Security could be subject to ordinary income tax. Now,
Absolutely.
if you have your money in that rate tank, you might not even have to worry about taxation on that Social Security. And that's going to be one of our goals when we're going to teach the world, and teach people who are in our system about Social Security. How maybe that could go away where you don't have to worry about taxation on your Social Security.
Well, maybe we can create our own Social Security plan.
I like
How
that
about
too.
that one?
Love it.
So, in other words, guys, listen, when you go into retirement, this tank has got several moving parts. And what happens when you have too much or too many eggs in one basket? It sometimes can fall flat. What if we could show you how to have both or the best of both worlds? It'll be well worth your time. Okay. Because we can show you how to leverage both of these avenues in a proper way, and that you can use your dollars more efficiently. Dare I say it, Mark? They could even use their money twice, because compounding interest, that is exactly what it can allow you to do, but it must stay moving. It can't be sitting there and all of a sudden emergency hits and you drain your tank. If we could show you how this tank would grow uninterrupted, steady 80, compounding interest above the standard of living adjusted for inflation and come out tax free, wow, many of your eyebrows just peak straight up. Well, guys, it is possible to have your cake and eat it too. But it's one word, and only one word is needed to be said here, and that's diversification. If you embrace the diversification of your portfolio, then you'll realize that each of these saving strategies, whether it be real estate, a savings account, CDs, bonds, 401ks, 403bs, any type of account, we describe it as a private reserve. But there's certain private reserves, guys, that work better than others. And that is what we're going to teach you on future shows, is not only how to fill these tanks up, but because the interest rate paid on a savings account right now, for example, bank rate said that Wells Fargo's today only was paying about 0.1%. So if your mind went to savings account, well, how can the green tank earn as much as the yellow tank? I'm going to go towards what's earning the largest amount. Though I don't know what the taxes are going to be in the future, at least I know that tank's performance is greater than what I'm going to get from my local bank. Well, interesting point. But I would say to you that some private reserves work better than others. It can be broken down simply by saying, my mentor and Mark's mentor, his name is Don Buddy. He's a very smart man, but he's very practical. He speaks metaphorically, and he gives this example of, if you had a choice, and if you guys, know golf, or you've ever seen Tiger Woods on TV, he's probably the world's best golfer. Okay. Or think of your own best golfer that you believe is the best golfer. It doesn't matter. But in this example, let's use Tiger Woods. And if you had a choice between Tiger Woods' swing or his club, my hope is that you would choose his swing. Why? Because it doesn't matter what clubs you give Tiger Woods, he's going to beat you anyway. So if you replace the word club with product and take the word swing and replace it with strategy, and you believe that the swing comes first, developing your skill set comes first before you put your hands on the club, then that's what Mark and I are talking about. Figure out what your strategy is, and then match the private reserve to that strategy, to what that strategy is going to do for you. And then we might be able to earn uninterrupted compounding interest that is equal to historically what the market has been able to give us back anyway, even with all its peaks and valleys. If you could earn 5 to 6% steady eddy, tax advantaged dollars that you can use at any given time without a penalty is a worthy discussion. Would you not agree, Mark?
I would.
It's a very worthy discussion. So, guys, when this tank is gone and is depleted, and you've outlived this money, what if this tank still allowed you to stay at the level and lifestyle that you are accustomed to and will continue to grow, even though you are using those dollars to be able to feed your family and to maintain your lifestyle? It's worth a lot, because what happens is that if you do not have what we're talking about here, and this tank is low, and say it's about right here, that you've been a smart saver, but maybe not as good as you'd like to be, but you did stack it up out of your paycheck because it came out automatically because your employer did it for you. And you go into retirement and your Social Security drops to about 70%. Okay. And the difference of that 30% has got to come from this tank here. And if you're afraid to take withdrawals because taxes are looking like this, we have a slight amount of problem. But to get the income back to 100% so you can maintain your lifestyle, we have to drain this tank, whether if it's by required minimum distributions or by any means that you have emergency, that you have all your money there and you need to gain access to those dollars. What's going to happen to this percentage? It's going to drop back down to 70, and that's going to change your lifestyle. But if we were to go with what I'm suggesting and what Mark is suggesting as well, is building a savings tank that is growing, I say again, steady Eddie, compounding interest of 5 to 6%. What if it was 4%? It's still greater than what the bank would offer you today or even tomorrow. Wouldn't you like to know how to do that so that your income and your cash flow stays at 100% and maybe put you in a position that you can come back to this tank and still grow this tank tax deferred because you have liquidity, use, and control of your dollars? Now, I know all of you are saying, okay, this guy's just talking crazy. Mark and Fred have madness in their mouth. That's not possible to do that. There's no such thing. My financial advisor said it doesn't exist. Well, that's because you have two types of financial advisors, don't you, Mark? You have those financial advisors that will take your money and invest it, but it often comes with more risk in order to get the greatest rate of return from it. And then there's financial advisors like Mark and I, who take what you already have. You're already good at what you do. We can just make you better. It's worth a lot if you could only just see it with a different set of lenses. Well, that's what Mark and I are so vested to do on these Financial Fridays, is to provide you with the answers to these questions that you can truly have your cake and eat it too. But it's up to you to allow us to give you the opportunity. And what I'm going to say is this, because it's more about how you see yourself than it is for us to preach it to you. But what I would say is that, guys, when you came on this show today, you had a circle of wealth. And no matter what happens, your circle of wealth is going to grow whether you listen to us or not. But what I really want you to understand is there's three types of money. There's accumulated money, there's transferred money, and there's lifestyle dollars. Well, if you believe in that and you understand where I'm going with this, and without me going too far into it, what we want to just show you is how to get a bigger box, okay, in your thinking, okay? We want you to, in this example, to allow us to come alongside of you and help you guide you on a financial GPS journey. We want to be, tell me if I'm wrong, Mark, we want to be your financial GPS to educate you along the way of how to avoid some of the pit stops and blockades and boulders that are going to come through life. Those emergencies are going to happen, that you don't want to interrupt that compounding I was just sharing with you earlier about, and that you want to grow that circle of wealth and have your cake and eat it too. What do you think about that, Mark?
I think it's wonderful. I mean, and that's the whole key here. Having an open mind, willing to adapt to change. I'll go from right in the beginning when we talked about efficiencies and inefficiencies of just how we think about money. Okay, if we are willing to adapt to changes, all of us, okay, we have to be able to do that paradigm shift. Allow us to come into your mind, show you, educate you, teach you. Because if you look at something differently the way that you've been looking at it, you're certainly going to make better choices for yourself once you have the education to do that.
Well, I mean, essentially, you know what we can break it down to, since we're coming down to our last 20 minutes? Let's tell a story. And you know what? I know we talked about telling like a case study, but why don't we just address the 800-pound gorilla in the room? Because most of you guys do have a financial advisor or someone that you go to in your circle, in your sphere, that you feel like has a clear understanding of how money is earned and also how it works. So what Mark and I like to do right at this moment, and it's a perfect moment to do it, isn't it, Mark? Is to say, what are the toughest financial questions that you have to ask yourself when you are gathering information from someone? How do you really know that they know what they know? Well, here it is. It's just 4 simple questions. If you guys are looking at it, I'm not going to stay on any particular screen too long. So if you have the ability to do a screenshot, by all means, do it. And then ask yourself, what rate of return do you have to earn on your savings and investment dollars for you to live like you do today, adjusted for inflation, and have that money last into your life expectancy? If your answer to that is, I don't know, then let's advance to the second question you should ask yourself. How much money do you need to save each and every year to be able to retire at your current standard of living and your money last until life expectancy? Because Mark and I just shared with you that it's a saving strategy. The investment strategy is only one piece of the puzzle. There is a savings efficiency strategy that has to be addressed because you have a partner in retirement. And Caesar demands its pound of flesh. The third question, if it's still I don't know on both 1 and 2, then let's move to 3. Doing what you're currently doing now. How long will you have to work before you can retire and still your money last until your full life expectancy? Now, whatever that is and whatever you see yourself, what your life expectancy is, I would take your longest living relative and measure it by them and say, where are they at right now? Are they working longer as a result of failure to plan? So they have a plan to fail. How can you step above that and beyond that and not have to go through that same situation? That's what Mark and I are trying to communicate to you. And if this is I don't know, then here's the coup de grace. Mark, read that one.
The toughest financial question. If you don't do anything, I mean anything different than you're doing today, do you know how much you will need to reduce your standard of living to keep from running out of money in retirement? Woo!
Wow. That is the one, Mark, when I end on that one, it's the highest note I can end on. Because the truth is, this is where either you or your spouse is got a terrible feeling in their stomach, don't they, Mark? And typically it is the other spouse, if you're watching this, and if they're watching it with you, or you go back to them and ask them these questions, I guarantee you that you'll want to tune in to the next show, because we're going to address how we can get you to a point that you can say yes to each of these questions. And it is not by means of simply investing. We're going to take that hour of the next show and of other shows weekly, and we're going to dissect it, aren't we, Mark? We're going to break it down and make it to the simplest form so that you can wrap your head around it. There will be no $50 words, no talking above your head. There will be no product conversation either, guys. We're not here to sell. We're here to educate, right, Mark?
Absolutely. 100%.
It's all about education, nothing more. Look, there's plenty of private reserves out here, and I've named a few of them here, and they all have their purpose. But what we're trying to identify is the strategy in order to use those dollars in the most efficient manner possible as life throws its many punches at you, that you're able to sustain but not surrender to life's challenges because you have a plan. Everyone needs a good plan. So in closing, Mark, why don't you share with us one of your cases of someone that you just helped you recently? It was a really good case you told me about the other day. Please share this with the audience.
Absolutely. So this is a 75-year-old divorced man. Okay. 3 children, 3 daughters. He's still working. He's a professor at a local college. He's still working because, number one, he loves what he does. Okay. But secondly, his beliefs were, he's got that yellow tank that Fred's been talking about. That yellow tank is something called a 403B. Now, many of you out there, your tank could be a 401k, a thrift savings plan, 403B. This is what this man had, a 403B. There's many, there IRAs. So they're all dealt with deferral of taxation in the future. So this man, somewhere along the way, he heard from somebody at a water cooler that if he left his money in his 403B and he hit 65 years old, then anything coming out of it in the future wouldn't be taxed. So he wasn't touching it. He understood that when he hit 70 and a half, this used to be with required minimum distribution, otherwise known as RMD, that if he had taken his money out, he would have to take something called RMD. Recent rule change this past year that went to age 72. However, if he's still employed, he would not have to take a required minimum distribution. This man was 75 at $4.5 million sitting in his 403B until Mark Katona came along and showed him the IRS rules, okay, that this money is going to be taxed, whether it's going to be himself while he's alive or to his heirs when he passes away at their rates. His 3 daughters are very professional people making great money. So if lightning strikes him this year and they're each getting $1.5 million, that's going to take him into the maximum federal tax bracket, plus state, plus other taxes that are involved with death. And this man was like, I cannot believe that this would be happening to me. I worked my whole life, okay? This man was 40 years as a professor, yet somewhere along the way, he missed it, okay? till Mark showed up and showed him what would happen catastrophically to his mountain of money that he's been growing. So put him through the whole process. And what we wound up doing was putting assets into a tank where he could have a liquidity, use, and control. Remember, Fred just talked about that a little while ago, liquidity, use, and control. Taking a portion of this now, not taking it all, taking a portion of it, moving it over in that safe tank, okay? Doesn't have to worry about market risk, okay?
It's the best odds you can have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then all those having this collateral capacity as well. Remember Fred showed that? You have collateral capacity, which he loved, okay? Not that he needs the money, but it's there if he does need the money. It's there if family members need the money. But it's just a shift in what's real, which is, this is how he was thinking for the longest time until recently. This came down, and he learned a heck of a lot before it's too late, okay? And before it's too late, this man can't thank me enough, but this happens every day, simply because 99.9% of us in the United States alone are financially illiterate, okay? And for those who want to learn, Fred and I have been given the opportunity to teach everyone who's going to stay on and listen to us, which is great. So I applaud you, Fred. Wonderful job.
I applaud you, my friend, because what you just described there is just essentially remove some of the moving parts from your portfolio, understand the rules that govern your private reserves, whatever they may be, have a clear understanding and be able to look into the future, is what Mark just described here. Is he looked into the future and he saw what was coming. And it's not that the gentleman didn't do a grand job. It's not even that. He did a fantastic job. It's just he just required a little bit of tweaking in order to, what I just said here earlier, it's not what you earn, it's what you can eat.
That's right.
And that means that he can leave if he looks at the tweaking that's necessary, allow us to come alongside of him and be his financial GPS. We can show him a better direction. Maybe we can avoid some of the detours. Maybe we can avoid some of the traffic jams. Maybe something is going on ahead that we can decide to go a different route altogether and avoid it. Avoid the falling rocks. Avoid the pit holes in the road. Don't tear your car down because you have blinders on, as we were just talking about, and you're driving aimlessly, hoping that the road will be paved all the way to prosperity. A lot of times things don't work out as we plan in life. So what I would like you guys to take away is focus on what you can control and allow us to give you that level of control that you need. Mark, do you have anything that you want to say in closing?
I do. And I think it's really important that we emphasize this. Share the knowledge that you learn. Okay. Without sharing the knowledge that you learn from people like Fred and I, it's really what it's all about. Okay. We're doing this for a reason. Okay. Our goal here is to take that differentiation of poverty worth is very wealth and get us closer together, okay? And it's going to be up to everybody that's listening today, okay, to get us to plant the seeds, okay, so your friends and family can reap the harvest.
Absolutely. You've got to share it and do invite them to join us on the show. We do it every Friday. at 1 o'clock. Guys, we're going to talk about a lot of great topics. We're going to tell some great stories. I mean, I can tell you right now, my partner here, Mark, has some really fantastic stories. We spend hours and hours just talking about those stories and trading our war stories to get better. Guys, you make us better. You're going to pose questions to us that's going to allow us to reach beyond even what we know. Let's find those solutions together. Let's not go at it on our own, and let's not assume that we've got all the answers, because here's the truth. It's better to know some of the questions than all the answers. But the other side of that is it's best to know the questions to ask to get the right answers, guys. Okay? So allow us to be that financial GPS to guide you through, and we'll find and uncover things that both of us might learn from, and we can learn from one another. Guys, thank you so very much. We're coming up on the last 5 minutes. We want to open that up for you guys to ask us any Q&A. If you have any, feel free just to throw out any questions. We'll try to answer that in the last 5 minutes of the show. Mark, is there anything that you'd like to kind of point out, maybe spotlight next week's show? What do you think we may talk about next week?
Oh, I'm not telling anybody. I'm sorry. I'm not giving I'm not giving my whole card up.
Mom's the word. Well, I tell you what, I kind of know what we're going to talk about, but let's leave them a little bit of some vague excitement. We're going to talk more and elaborate more about that green tank and how you guys could maybe look at less about investing, but more about savings efficiency. And we're going to explain to you what that looks like, and possibly maybe a private reserve that might function a little bit better for you in regards to growing steady Eddie, compounding interest, greater than the standard of living, adjusted for inflation, and come out tax free. So is Mark Katona?
Fred Hicks.
Thank you so very much for joining us here on this Financial Friday, and we look to see you next week. Thanks so much. Thanks, Mark.
I'm excited. Have a great week, everybody. Looking forward to next week.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.